What's up, my fellow whacks? So I've come to a bit of a realization recently about successful people and their work ethic, and there's not going to be any real thesis to this video. Not that anybody's going to fucking watch it in the first place. So I'll kind of just be spitting out what I came up with and, describing it, and then I'll hit the record button to end the video. So, I always thought that rich people, I should say people that are actively in the process of becoming rich, people who are ambitious, who have intentions of being successful, and who, for all intents and purposes, are very likely to be successful, that they always worked in a kind of strategy mode, that they were thinking really hard about what they were doing, that they were always analyzing the next step and thinking of everything in terms of strategy, being very cautious of what they're doing at any given time, and making sure at any given moment that they're making the correct decisions. But as somebody actively going through that process myself right now, I'm starting to actively realize that, in fact, the way it tends to go most of the time is that there are specific moments in your trajectory and in your path when you need to be very, very particular about the decisions that you're making. And I'm sure those moments are very often for certain types of paths, or for certain types of pursuits, for certain types of people. But in general, I don't think they're actually as frequent as I thought they were. I think most of the time is spent executing, and not necessarily actually changing the path. Now, that being said, the moments where you are actually actively changing the path, when you are making decisions about what trajectory you will take, what you value, at the root, it's what you value, and then from there, it's what you're going to do to get there. Of course, most people tend to start with what you're going to do to get there without ever thinking about what they're actually pursuing in the first place. But it's a topic for a different video, different time, different place. Most of the time, people are actually just in execution mode, and in fact, that's actually the proper way of doing it as well. I've started to look around to how most successful people work, at least those that I have the chance to even see with, even remotely any level of detail and specificity, because obviously I can't actually lock myself with Zuck, Bezos, or Elon Musk and see how they work, even though the media will try and sensationalize the way that they work and make it a very, make it a real showy thing. But at least from what I've currently seen, most of the time is indeed spent in execution mode, and I think it's liberating because it means at any given time you don't have to carry the weight of every single decision that you're making, and you don't necessarily need to be in life or death strategy mode 24/7. Now, that being said, the more often you can be in that mode, if you've read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, that would be like System 2 type shit. You don't actually need to be there really almost ever. You only need to be there when the specific situation calls for it, and then you can turn it on manually. You don't need to stay in System 2. In fact, System 1 tends to be the most valuable for daily life and working. That's an aside, a bit of a tangent. I highly recommend that book, by the way. If you are one of the few people who has made it to this point in the video, you go read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. I haven't finished the book yet, disclaimer, but so far it's a brilliant way of architecting thinking and the way we make decisions and our frameworks surrounding them. Just wanted to put that out there. Anyways, what I'm getting at with this is when I used to watch Alex Hormozi work, for example, I used to always think, man, when you lock yourself in a room for 16 hours in a day with no shut, and in fact, I think that was literally the last video right before this one, because I don't post on this channel. Stephen Cole isn't my name, by the way, but for the 3 people over the course of a year who will find this video, you'll probably find it interesting to know that a bit ago I did make that video, maybe a couple months ago, and it basically works out to be, I always thought that it was a little bit strange that he worked that way, because I thought, what room do you have when you work 16 hours in a day for all 16 of those hours to be brutally sharp? And then I realized, oh, they don't have to be. And when these particular periods kick in where you're going to be doing a lot more execution than you are strategy, it actually, I hate to say it, and I hate to say that I was wrong, it does make more sense to just work all day, every day, because it's just about volume. Oh, I hate that word, volume. both in training, I mean physical training, archery training, and all this other stuff. I fucking hate the idea that just do more, bro, because it's the most lazy fucking excuse for not knowing what you're doing or why you're doing it. It's just, I'll just smash my head into a wall until it works, man. And the worst part is that it will work eventually, but that doesn't mean it's the right way to do it or the best way to do it, let alone the most fucking enjoyable way to do it. But depending on your personality type, I guess. For someone like Hormozi, I think that's right up his alley. But I don't think that it's actually very bad to lock yourself in during these execution periods, because all there is to do is execute. You need to get through the volume, at the very least for particular types of work, for particular periods, I suppose, in different types of plans. It makes the most sense to just work. There's no reason to be sitting around, quote unquote, strategizing about things that you can't act on yet. It only makes sense to get through the actions that are most necessary to get to where you need to be and actually progress. So with that in mind, I was wrong. Alex Hormozi works 16 hours a day for a reason. That being said, he has a very particular personality type, and I don't take back that his personality type is not going to work for a lot of people, but I will give him props that the brute force volume strategy is probably as close as you can get to a quote-unquote guaranteed victory. I don't think that it's for everybody. I don't think that it's for me, even. Right now, I leave the house maybe once every 3 days right now, usually to work out, because I don't even, this past phase, I've legitimately been, I don't wake up that early, but I go to bed fairly early. I've been waking up around 6:30. I start working around 7, and I've usually finished work, I'll work from 7 to 10:30 a.m. uninterrupted. Then I'll eat breakfast. I'll usually start working again at 11:30, and I'll work until 2 p.m. until 1:30, and then I eat lunch. And then at 2:30 or so, I'll usually work until 5 or 6, maybe 7. I really have a lot to do. There were a few days last week where that period was from 2:30 to 11 p.m. and I would wake up at 6 again. I don't know what that adds up to without the lunch breaks. I could be really very humble about it and call it a 16-hour day, but I don't think it's a real 16-hour day if you're having 3 meal breaks in between. So I think it ends up being a little bit more than that, a little bit less than that. Yeah, I was wrong. Alex Hormozi works that way for a reason. If it works for you, do it. Listen if it works. Don't listen if it doesn't help. That's all there is to it. There's not that much to it. Don't make this shit complicated. Yeah, that's about it.